Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Youth Rights Podcast. I'm your host, Zane Miller. You know me from all the previous episodes. Today, we are here with the chair of Electronic Frontiers Australia, which is a digital freedom organization in Australia. I'm just going to go ahead and introduce myself. So I'm on the board of directors here at NYRA, the National Youth Rights Association. And what we do is we advocate for youth rights. We like to focus on youth rights in all forms, including internet freedom, digital freedom, freedom for technology, those types of things. And we've seen a rise lately in discriminatory policies around age-based social media bans, and recently one of those was passed in Australia. So, John, I want to give you time to just talk about your organization. What do you do at your organization? How do you advocate, and what kind of things do you do?
Electronic Frontiers Australia has been around for about 30 years. It's a digital rights organisation. It's completely volunteer run. So essentially our board changes every year at the AGM. We have about a 10 people team that run the organisation in their spare time. We're all professionally employed, whatnot. We do have a group of volunteers that help us as well. So it's a bit of a challenge for us. So we sort of punch above our weight, and areas of focus, digital rights broadly, privacy, data protection, freedom from surveillance, technology overreach, AI safety. So it runs the gamut. Of course, for the last 12 months, Australia's social media ban has been our primary course of action in terms of trying to lobby the government and get the government to change its way of thinking, its nostalgic way of thinking, with regards to how they've put in place this social media ban for under 16s in Australia. Is fundamentally flawed on so many levels.
Yeah, so talk to me about that. Why do you think exactly, how is this ban just a violation of freedom and a violation of digital rights? Just talk to me about what's wrong with this ban.
The problem is this core philosophy is that the primary mechanism through which they're trying to solve this problem is through prohibition. And most Western democracies that have had an issue with matters that brought about prohibition shows prohibition fails. In the digital context, what we have here is a repeat of the cultural zeitgeist between adults and young people that's been around since, the dawn of time. But looking back, say, more recently, the 1950s, in the 1950s, it may have been comics. That was the disruptor that had parents concerned. In the 60s, it was rock and roll, or hippies. In the 70s, metal music. In the 80s, MTV. In the 90s, computer games. 2000s, anything connected to the internet. So this is a bit of pearl clutching on the part of parents, and not to the exclusion that we don't recognise there's problems with this technology and the platforms and how they run them. But the way in which our government has sought to solve this problem is, if I can mix metaphors, is to pick the lowest of hanging fruit and smash it with the bluntest of instruments. That's exactly what they've done. They don't take account of the fact of the benefits that digital life presents young people, the opportunities that it presents them both in the social capacity but also in other capacities, educational, health, even opportunities to run small businesses online as influencers and providers of information. So what the government has done is got out the ban stick and said, you're banned because you're under 16. And this is very, very populist policy. And it's populist law. It's performative law as well, to win votes, keep votes, and to get, positive spin on the news media cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I like what you brought up about the benefits of technology for young people because like I know like myself when I was a teenager, like I definitely was on social media and it led me to like do a bunch of things like I met people from all over the world, like from different parts of the US, then from other countries and stuff. And like I formed a lot of friendships with people. So I feel like if you take away that social media from teenagers just by acting like it's 100% evil and there's no benefits and that they shouldn't even be allowed to access it. I feel like it definitely can negatively affect people and take away their ability to do things. The National Youth Rights Association, we use social media to like coordinate and to like reach out to each other and to like keep in contact and communication and stuff. And then a lot of our members are under 18. We have members under 16 as well. So if a ban similar to the one in Australia was to come to the US, it's like, we have members that wouldn't even be able to like be part of our organization because they couldn't use the social media.
Yeah.
There are many benefits that I feel like the government isn't recognizing. So I talk more about that. What would be like more of these benefits of social media for young people that you feel like the government is just completely ignoring?
Let's talk about consequences and harms that arise because of this ban. One of the problems it was reputed to try and solve for was cyberbullying. Now, this won't solve bullying at all. And it does happen, and there are tragic things that do happen from time to time. Cyberbullying as also occurs with other types of bullying in a physical context. If a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old can't access social media, they can still harass people via other means using electronic devices, using simple text messaging and whatnot. So it moves to another area. The other concern we have is that it directly causes harms to communities, vulnerable communities that rely upon social media for connection, for people to find their tribe, to get care and resources. And there are a few cohorts there, and that includes the LGBTIQ plus community. It includes potentially disabled kids that have difficulties forming social relationships physically and rely upon the online world to do that. In Australia, like in the US, we're a very large country, and we do have some kids living in some very remote places. And the whole notion from our Prime Minister that this nostalgic notion that kids will somehow put down their phone, then rush out from the homes to the parks near their houses to kick the ball or, play cricket or baseball or whatever, is just a pipe dream for those kids that are stuck in remote properties with the nearest town is, say, 200 miles away. Right. So it's completely false. And for some people, particularly disabled people, this connectivity online is their life. They may not have the ability to move freely because of their disability from home, which may be physical or may be intellectual. And it's their only way of interacting with others that they feel safe with and that they identify with, and find their tribe. So that's some of the unintended consequences of this, which we lobbied hard to present. But it is very difficult to lobby against that when it's popular. Parents seem to love the idea because it absolves them of responsibility. And it's, the government acting as the gatekeeper. So it is problematic. We don't have the same freedom of expression rights that you have in the US under the Constitution. We have a more limited version. It's limited to political communications in our Constitution, but otherwise it's far more in the common law. You're going to have parents and politicians who will be trapped by the informal logical fallacy of common sense. It's common sense. Yes, we should do that because here's the book. It says it harms kids. We should, make a ban for it. common sense is an informal logical fallacy because it plays to your embedded conscious biases. It doesn't allow you to look for different data or different information to challenge your firmly held beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I definitely like what you brought up about the connectivity between teenagers, and especially like with what you said about the LGBTQ community, because that type of behavior isn't necessarily accepted in all homes. Like if a teenager comes from a very conservative household,
exactly,
where like they don't feel safe expressing their identity or expressing the way they are. Some of the only ways they feel safe being able to do that is on the internet, and they can connect with people like them. Like I've met people on the internet where like they feel like that's the only place they can truly express themselves. And then along with that, there's also kids who need to be able to get like a mental support, emotional support from those types of communities. Because like, let's say like they may not have the best home life. Like maybe their parents are kind of like manipulative or maybe not abusive, but just like not treating them well. And it's like, I wrote a blog about social media bans a few months ago. And when I was researching for that, I interviewed a member of this mental health support like online server. And she talked about how she found the server as a teenager when she didn't really have a strong support system in her real life because she was from the foster community and everything. So she didn't really have that strong support system. So when she found the online community, it kind of really gave her an emotional support system. And yeah, I definitely feel like the Australian government isn't recognizing the benefits that this could have to kids in the way that they're hurting teenagers. And I feel like it's more about like controlling the teenagers and like exercising control rather than trying to protect them.
Yeah, that aspect's been deliberately ignored. That's been a core part of our advocacy is to advocate for those vulnerable cohorts. And as you mentioned, there are kids that live at home that may have particular issues. It may be particularly religious home or particular faith where sexual identity is never challenged. It's purely heterosexual and very conservative. We have kids that may be living at home in situations where there may be domestic violence. There could be substance abuse and a whole range of issues. And the only place where they can get support or get resources or find someone to talk to is online. And what we were really focused on is saying that this is just populist nonsense by putting in place a ban. There are inherent problems with technology and the social media platforms that have to be solved, and simply delaying them for 2 years or whatever is wishful thinking. And the harms that technology and social media platforms can do is not simply limited to kids. It applies to adults too. And the only way to solve this problem is to break the business model of big tech. And to do that, you need to introduce a digital duty of care with safety as design features and appropriate legislation to enforce that, to make sure that there's no harmful algorithm manipulation, either for engagement or for intention or to be marketed to. And there needs to be a solution in place that holds platforms liable for any harms that they might do.
So what do you think would be a better solution in practice? Like, do you think it would be good for maybe instead of banning teenagers off social media, do you think it would be good for maybe schools, for example, to focus on education on digital safety? Be here, this is how you can be safe and use social media without these types of problems. Do you think that would be a better way to kind of mitigate the problem?
That's exactly what we've advocated for historically, which is trying to educate digital natives, which is those kids that are born from 2000 onwards, with those particular skills and knowledge on how to have that digital life, how to engage online, learn about digital civics, learn about risks and how to manage them.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be going through our primary school and secondary school or high school levels continuously. So it's very, very important that happens. But also at the same time, parents aren't comfortable sometimes with the technology, don't understand it. So there needs to be some outreach and education programs and resources available to parents. And, to a certain extent in Australia, they are through our e-safety commissioner, which is the person that has ultimate responsibility for designing rules for online safety. But you really can't, as they say, bring a horse to water and make them drink. So they have to go proactively and find those resources.
Kind of what I feel like about it is I feel like the government is more trying to ignore the problem and like brush under the rug and be like, oh, we're fixing it, and just like slapping like a fake Band-Aid over it, acting like they're fixing the problem. But realistically, they're just ignoring issues and then just trying to control people and exercise this power that they have as the government to restrict people from doing things. And I feel like the government is like just not understanding the implications that this could have, and this actually would make the issue so much worse. Instead of just trying to like let people have their freedoms and let people like just like go about things their own way.
It's just smart politics on their part. They've got a very popular solution that's very popular with parents. It received lots of good coverage in sort of mainstream media, corporate media. And it was the easiest thing to achieve. It's easier to ban something than to break apart the business model of big tech. That requires a lot of time and a very significant legislative reform package over several years.
So what do you think would be a better, like more of a better solution? Like, do you feel like instead of this social media ban, like what could the government do to actually like address the issues rather than restricting freedom from young people?
Definitely providing young people with more education and tools on digital life, which will come through the school system, but also to be available to parents, to trust young people that they will make the right decisions for themselves once they're fully armed with the information that's needed for risk management and safety purposes.
Yeah.
You shouldn't kid yourself that the online environment can be unsafe at times. And there's a lot of predators online that seek to engage with young people for inappropriate purposes. There's lots of harmful information online as well. And how do you pass that to distinguish between, what is true versus what is misinformation or what is disinformation?
Well, I mean, yeah, I like what you said about empowering, like being able to trust young people, because I definitely feel like, and there's a lot of circumstances where I feel like young people have a better idea of their internet presence than like their parents do, or like people in authority of them do. Like, for example, they meet someone online. They meet like someone online that they know is like also their age. Like they're 15, they meet someone who's also 15. And like they know it, they're friends. They've called, they've like FaceTime, they've played games together. But then like maybe their parent like finds out about that, and then they immediately go, oh, this is probably a 50-year-old man trying to like groom you or something. And then they like get all, they don't trust the kid. They like try to restrict them from being able to like engage with like someone who that the kid knows is safe and that wouldn't cause them harm. So yeah, do you feel like
that can potentially happen? I agree. But what needs to happen first is that to have that open relationship with the young person and to have free discussions. To make sure.
To let them know that they can be trusted with things. It's like the parent can trust the kid with them being able to have an internet presence, and then in turn the kid feeling comfortable discussing things with their parents about said internet presence. So then it's like it's free communication, free discussion, and it would benefit both people, making sure the kid like gets their freedom and is able to like stay safe, and without the parent needing to like over manage and over restrict that type of behavior.
So again, it varies, and there's also so many ways to get around this from a technical perspective. We don't have any data yet on how many kids have circumvented the ban. I've talked to a couple of schools, and there's a pretty large cohort who have gotten around the tech quite easily and maintain their existing social media accounts or created new ones.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about ways to get around this? Do you think VPNs are a good way, or what do you think about teens getting around it?
The way it's figured out, it's a cascade of age gating activities. So the first method may be age estimation, which is based upon the information the platform holds about you.
Mm-hmm.
So it may make a decision that you're over 16 based upon the content that you follow, based upon the content you post, based upon your search engine history.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly accurate.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's unfair? Because I would feel like that's kind of unfair. If you're someone who just had judging people and basically restricting their access to social media because of their content or their interests or what type of media they watch. For example, Google was doing something with YouTube to where they used AI to look at the content that people were viewing and estimating their age from there. And I would feel like that's kind of unfair in a way, because it's just judging you without any information. We're just looking at the content, and it's that's so subjective to individuals.
It renders a lot of false positives and false negatives,
mm-hmm.
right?
And then also,
and it's not a matter of fairness. It's just the fact that the government put in place the requirement that these organizations had to take reasonable steps
mm-hmm.
to authenticate the age of their users.
Yeah.
And this is from a privacy perspective.
Mm-hmm.
This is the least invasive of the other methods that are being deployed to estimate or validate the age of individuals. Now, from our perspective, we're very, very concerned that biometric images are being taken, or copies of passports are being taken, potentially stored with third parties for a period of time, and creating, potential honeypots for, the cyber risks from bad actors.
So you definitely feel like it's kind of a privacy risk for people having to upload all of this information, either pictures of themselves or IDs and stuff. Because I know we've had examples of that happen in the past. For example, off the top of my head, there was this app called T, which was that these women used. This happened earlier this year, where they uploaded either their ID or a selfie of themselves to this app. There was a data breach, and all of the data was leaked. And that was on the part of the social media platform just not being able to have proper security measures in place for the data. So do you think that concern then goes to other social media platforms, that you don't feel like they could be secure with data, and that data can end up getting breached or sold, or what do you think about that?
Well, to give you an example, or as an example, in the UK, they have the online safety legislation as well.
Mm-hmm.
Discord is a platform I'm sure you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Discord went through the process of age gating its users to ensure that they were over 16.
Mm-hmm.
And they were using a third-party service provider to manage those individuals who failed the age gating tests but were over 16.
Mm-hmm.
So within 3 weeks of the UK Online Safety Act commencing, this service provider acting for Discord suffered a data breach, and had 75,000 credentials, passports, and other stuff stolen from their database of Australian kids. So that's going to be the weakest link.
I just do want to kind of circle back to the social media ban and how it affects young people. A major concern that I have is that young people's their concerns aren't being taken seriously. You mentioned how this was kind of a populist idea with parents, because parents are kind of pearl clutching and being worried about protecting their kids from the internet. So then the government panders to that, and then they get the ban in place. But I feel like something that's extremely overlooked is the fact that, young people under 16, they don't have the right to vote. They don't have the right to vote on these decisions. They can't vote on their elected representatives who are going to be putting these policies in place, who are going to be making these laws. So I do kind of feel like the lack of representation of young people leads to a place where policies are negatively affect them and they can't do anything about it. So I would feel like that's my biggest concern, is that they're being negatively affected by these policies and like nobody really takes their concerns seriously. They more focus on like the parents or something, when realistically this isn't affecting the parents. This is restricting the rights and freedoms of young people.
The government sees that a bit differently, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And in Australia, talking about the Australian context, there was a very large consultation process. So there were hundreds of submissions to the government in relation to the flaws of their approach to managing social media, including those academics and organisations that represent child welfare. There were panels of young people involved with discussions. Of course, the government rolls out kids in favour of the ban and puts them front and centre to talk to adults and groups about this proposal, whereas those that were opposed to it, really don't get much coverage.
Yeah, they wouldn't really take their concerns into consideration.
Yeah. So it is problematic, but that's just the way the law is made. I expect over in the US with COSA, the Child Online Safety Act, that's currently floating around your House of Reps at the moment. I'm not sure to what extent young people were consulted with that or how. Yeah, well, the way the government here has seen it and the comparison or the metaphor that they've used is that, well, kids can't buy alcohol here until they're 18, which is 21 in the US, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the comparison. Again, the spin is it's not a ban, it's a temporary stopgap sort of thing.
Yeah. But I feel like it's definitely systematic discrimination, because it's, instead of like looking at someone as an individual, it's judging them by a factor in themselves that they can't control. Like, you can't control your age, you can't control your race, you can't control your gender. It's like an immutable factor, something about yourself you can't change. So instead of looking at someone as an individual and judging them as an individual, it's judging them by an immutable factor.
There are a lot of laws in both of our countries that deal with the agency of a child and when they are expected to be able to make decisions for themselves. And those laws vary by age. There's a long history there. So it's going to take a significant amount of time to change that process of legislatures to be more consultative with the cohorts and the communities that they legislate for.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you think organizations like yours and like other organizations for digital freedom could, kind of push back against this type of legislation, against these bans?
Well, we did all that we could, again, being a small band of cohorts. So we were very busy making submissions to government. We spent a lot of time talking to the press and getting sharp messaging to the press. I was on the advisory board for the Technology Assurance Trial, which was the government got together an organisation to test a range of tech to do this age gating. I was the sole privacy expert on the panel, and I resigned halfway through because I could see it was simply, all about a sales pitch for the government to sell this ban. So I leveraged that quite strongly and sort of said, I give this trial a big fat F. That's made headlines and here in Australia. But the government just had too much political clout and support from parents to not move forward.
Do you feel like they just didn't take your concerns seriously at all?
Yeah. And they had control of the upper and lower house. We have the same sort of structure of government here. And they just rammed legislation through. Yeah,
definitely. Because they have the ability to do that. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Do you have anything else that you want to just say last thoughts on the ban or anything like that?
If they certainly in the coming year will be sort of targeting the areas of the ban where it fails, and it fails particular communities. So we hope to partner with other civil society organizations in Australia to do that.
This was really good. Thank you for coming on. You had a lot to say. You had a lot of information about this. If you just want to, like, any last thoughts on your organization, if you want to, like, talk to the people, like, how they can support your organization, or any way they can, like if you want to, like, promote anything for your organization, or just
we do have some international members, so people want to, like, we rely upon membership fees and donations.
Okay.
Again, and we also have a Redbubble shop for merch to sell digital right merch.
Yeah.
So do consider becoming a member at www.efa.org.au.
Okay.
So, or just check out our website from time to time, or our socials.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure. And yeah, that's about it. Bye-bye, everyone.